think about the worst thing that you've ever seen in World of Tanks, and I bet it doesn't even come close to today's video. So having hyped up this video so much already, this is of course the ISU 130, and we're going to see an unreal gameplay by Gabriel showcasing how a vehicle that to all intents and purposes is pretty okay, but it's not spectacular, and somehow this replay comes off with an unimaginable, unthinkable amount of damage that just genuinely shouldn't happen in a tier 8, but it does, and of course hopefully you guys do enjoy. So stick around, we're going to see all of the various aspects, and hopefully I'll be able to showcase and highlight some things that maybe you can use within your own gameplays as well. But the first thing that we're seeing here is probably not the best map when you're playing a non-turreted tank, especially when you are playing in something like the ISU 130. Now what you'll notice is the ISU 130 is a vehicle that is kind of your traditional Soviet tank destroyer, where it is very much similar to the ISU 152. Of course, the ISU 130 has some little more niche things to it in the fact that, of course, it has a 130mm cannon. I'm sure you guys don't need me to explain that to you, but the whole point with the 130mm over some of the tech tree equivalents with the 152 is that you get more consistency with the main armament, but you also get the option to fire your kind of premium AP rounds, which have higher damage but have significantly less penetration, and that is what this tank offers. So you don't get any outrageous premium rounds, unfortunately, which kind of sucks, but it's not the worst thing in the world. So, you know, it's just one of those things that I think could definitely be improved for the most part, but it is what it is. But ideally, what you'll have with vehicles like this tank in particular is that you'll be able to get up close and personal in scenarios where maybe you are playing the support role, but equally you'll have the damage with these premium AP rounds where you can increase that damage if you find an opponent that you can pen quite easily. Now, saying that, 212 pen on the premium AP is actually fairly good. I mean, you can pen most vehicles at tier 8 with that from the front, even heavy tanks. Maybe not things like the Defender or some of the more unique armoured, maybe the boat-shaped hull, you might find a little bit more of a struggle, but tanks like a Skoda T25 down at tier 6, not going to be a problem. Now, you're seeing here that he's decided to load back to the standard AP rounds. That's because there are a lot of low health vehicles over here, and there's no point wasting higher alpha damage and potentially not penning when you have the rounds that you do. Now, one good thing about the ISU 130 is that if you run Intuition, what you can do is you can load these HE rounds, which are going to provide massive bonuses to your damage, and in fact you'll end up with even higher amounts of damage, all the way up to 640 damage in one singular shell, which allows you to one-shot lower tier vehicles. And when you've got 65mm of penetration with these HE rounds, what you can do is you can find opponents from the side and you can quite easily pen. And the good thing about having the lower caliber gun is that your reload when you're swapping ammunition with Intuition is really low, so you don't have a massive kind of disadvantage by swapping your ammunition, so it allows you to kind of pick the round best suited for every single engagement. Things like autoloaders obviously get a much longer reload or kind of shell swapping capability, which is of course something that this tank doesn't have to suffer with, and allows it to do things like this where it's just rinsing opponents. And already within the game, 5,726 damage has been done, so a very, very good result. Regardless of whatever player skill level you think you're at, I'm sure that you guys can appreciate that 5,700 damage in a tier 8 tank destroyer on a map where you seriously have to push into opponents that are going to be held down. Luckily, no real threats on the ridge lines, at least so far, with the T29 actually ending up in the kind of castle area where maybe should have been on the ridge lines fighting, but either way, some really nice start to the game. But don't worry, because 5,700 is just a halfway point in this battle as we move towards the ultimate damage numbers that we're going to see. And in fact, this is one of the highest XP games I think I've ever seen, and certainly the highest XP game I've seen in a Soviet tank destroyer, that's for sure. Now, the good thing about this vehicle over some of the others is that you have room to maneuver, and the reload, like we've talked about, is fairly low. You don't have an insane length of time to wait between your shells, which allows you to maybe take some more risky shells. Now, this replay, probably not the best case of taking risky shells, or maybe if you take a shell and it misses, it doesn't matter that much, because I think there's only 2 or 3 shells that actually miss within this entire replay. So of course the Soviet RNG coming out to bring back the whole win, but already 7,200 damage, and you'd probably be thinking this is probably top 1% of games in the ISU 130, because although the tank can do a lot of damage, it's very difficult to find opponents that you can constantly fire at and keep firing for the length of time that's been happening. And if you think about the video being about 6 minutes long, then so far, then having picked up 8,800 damage, you'd probably be thinking, well, that's some fairly good damage per minute. And you'd be right, because this tank actually has, if you max it out to all of the ability that you could possibly do with damage per minute, which is of course probably not the case within this replay, but you could manage to get it to 4,300 damage with these premium AP rounds. If you're firing the standard round, you can get it up to about 3,800, so still very good, but not quite the 4,300 that you can get, but either way, really good damage per minute. And you can see here he's picked up 10,000 damage in a tier 8 tank destroyer. Yeah, 10,000 damage in a tier 8 game as well. So even the fact that he's in a tier 8 game and he's managed to pick up 10k, because there is not that much health on the enemy team when you're in a tier 8 game. You will have to really punish pretty much every vehicle you come up against, and pretty much every vehicle on the enemy team if you want to deal the amount of damage he's done. And I guess that's what he's been focusing on throughout this game, is actually picking apart pretty much every tank in the game. And lovely to see the Renegade on the enemy team, of course, taking one final shell before the ISU 130 is subsequently taken out. But it doesn't matter, because he managed to pick up, at the end of this game, 11,570 damage with 218 assistance, just as a little measly addition to the whole replay. But yeah, an outstanding result. Let's check out the post-game stats, and of course very much interested as to what you think about this. Do you like the fact that the premium rounds get lower penetration but also more damage, or do you think it should be that the standard rounds have more damage and the premium have kind of lower damage but more penetration? Interested to see what you guys think, but I think this way round is probably kind of nicer. So I think that this is the second time we've actually featured Gabriel on the channel here with the no mod clan tag, and this is a really brilliant game. Of course, I mean, the fact that this is even showcased on the channel pretty much showcases that it's a very good game, but the whole point is that you get a mastery badge in a vehicle that is, to all intents and purposes, probably mediocre / maybe good. I mean, it's not like brilliantly overpowered or anything like that. It is a tank destroyer that is very competitive if in the right hands, but for the majority of players probably not that much fun to play. You've got, of course, tanker, sniper, confederate, high caliber, top gun, 415,000 credits, there's no surprise, 6,092 experience, but of course utilizing the boosters, and with 11,570 damage, 7 kills, 2,500 base experience with 8 epic medals, including an arsonist as well, and of course making 320,000 silver profit having fired quite a few premium rounds, but of course the whole point is that you want that extra damage with those premium rounds, so it's worth it. And yeah, what an outstanding result of World of Tanks, and I was genuinely just never thought that a vehicle like this would come away with the result that this one did. So I'm very interested to see your guys' thoughts on this one, and it was a brilliant one to watch. Thank you very much, Gabriel, for uploading it to the What Replay site, and of course thank you guys for sticking around. Of course, subscribe if you aren't already and you want to see more content like this coming daily. And yeah, very interested to see your comments, and if you want to see anything specific, leave it in the comment section down below, and check out this video on screen right now to have a look at some more content that we've done in the past. Thank you and goodbye.